Hello, creative enthusiasts. I'm Aaronica Cole from The Needle and the Bell,
And I'm Julian Collins from Julian Creates.
and welcome to another exciting episode of the Audacity podcast. Ready to embark on a journey where audacity meets creativity and crafting? Well, friends, you found your destination right here.
As your guides, we're thrilled to blend the worlds of sewing, crafting, and life's audacious adventures.
In each episode, we're stirring up a cup of inspiration, laughter, and, of course, candid conversations. From the buzzing topics in the sewing community to the projects we're currently immersed in, we've got your creative cravings covered.
And don't forget our special guest interviews, deep dives into weekly themes, and thought-provoking, audacious questions that will spark your creativity.
So, whether you're a seasoned sewist or just exploring your crafting curiosity, this podcast is your cozy haven for all things audacious and crafty.
So grab your favorite project, your beverage of choice, and let's take another sip from the cup of audacious living.
All right, Julian, our very first episode, and I'm ready to kick this thing off with a bang. So I
Let's
was
go.
reading on Reddit. Now, listen, I feel like Reddit can be a really great place, especially for creatives, but I also feel like it can be a dangerous place too because crafters can be very, very mean.
I
But
don't
I
think
saw
that's the
this.
word. They vicious. They vicious, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Vicious is a word. Vicious is a word.
Mm-hmm.
But this one I thought was a really great read, right? Because I think that all of us, once people find out that we sew, right, we immediately get random projects tossed at us. So this person is writing and requesting advice. So, advice needed, also a rant, how to say no to random projects people throw on you. Here we go. I'm looking for advice on what to tell people when they ask me to do a project for them. I'm on mobile, so I apologize if formatting is bad. For context, I started learning how to sew during COVID. I'm self-taught, and while I enjoy sewing, I'm not great at it. I'm at the beginner or intermediate level. I've made tote bags, copied tank top patterns to make my own tanks, hem t-shirts, that kind of stuff. And while I have improved greatly since 2020, I don't have knowledge, skill set, or the time to be able to learn and do alterations that would look clean and professional. I've done some basic alterations to thrifted jeans for myself, and that while people who do so may notice the many mistakes, most others don't notice at all. Very relatable. Anyway, I have a problem that I've been dealing with since I took up sewing as a hobby. And that is, anytime I mention anything about sewing, people always immediately respond with, "Oh, I have a project for you. Hey, I have some jeans you should hem for me. I have the pants that need to be taken in. You should do it. If you're bored, I have some alterations that need to be done," and many other statements along those lines. Friends, family, coworkers, and even random customers at work all do it, and it's exhausting. None of them offer any form of compensation and try to strong arm me into doing alterations for them. The reason I mention compensation is that my free time is incredibly valuable to me, especially considering that I don't have a lot of it. Plus, any of those projects would require me to purchase supplies. When I tell people I don't work for free, they say, "Oh, come on, we're friends." Or, "It's just a hem and it won't take that long." Or, "I just need an inch taken in, that should be easy." They refuse to understand that their simple alteration is, in fact, not that simple and takes a lot of time. This is when I usually tell them that I don't know how to do specific alterations, so I did take it on that there is a very high chance that their garment would be ruined. And I don't feel comfortable with that, especially if they agreed to pay me. I don't want to do a bad job. And while people are disappointed, they typically drop it. But my boss is different. For 2 years, she has been trying to get me to alter several pairs of jeans for her. And I've always given the same response I just described. She will leave it be for a while and ask me again to do the same alteration a few weeks later. She also never offers compensation for the time it takes or for the materials needed for the projects. For some reason, she won't let it go. This time around, she was way more forceful. When I clocked into my shift, instead of asking me if I would do some alterations for her, like she's been doing, she used a stern tone and said, "You need to hem these jeans for me." We work a lot together and know each other very well. Not friends, but work friends, if that makes sense. And we keep our conversations very casual. And she's only stern and authoritative to new employees when she's training them. So her using her authority as my boss to get me to do this, especially outside of work, surprised me. I told her the same thing, that I didn't know how, I didn't feel comfortable, your garment would be ruined, etc. And she said, that's okay. I got this for $5, so I don't care if they're ruined. You just need to tack it where I marked, so it should be simple and easy. I left them in the back room for you to take home tonight for you to work on. I don't think she tried to use her authority on as my boss to strong arm me into doing it, especially considering that I recently had an injury that requires me to go to physical therapy. I'm going to tell her no, because this is a boundary I'm not comfortable crossing, because I know it wouldn't stop there. Rather, she continued to ask me to do more projects for her in the future, but I'm not sure what to say. I was thinking about telling her that with my injury, it's too painful to do any sewing right now, including my own projects, much less anyone else's. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. So, Julian, what would you be your advice here?
Hold on. Let me act like I would talk to my boss, because if I'm talking to somebody else, they gonna get a whole nother.
They're gonna get who they gonna get? They gonna get Julian Cordell? Certainly not Julian Creates.
They will get Juju. That's the problem.
Juju,
And
Juju.
Juju something totally different. I think so. Of course, I've dealt with this a lot. I've dealt with even people getting close to me and thinking like, "Oh, well, you know how to sew, so and we're friends, so you should be able to do this for me."
Mm-hmm.
Not realizing that I'm not a sweatshop.
Oh.
Um, that I'm at a point now in where I have started to sew, that I get paid to sew for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I try to let people know that,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to sew for nothing but a living wage.
Come on, somebody.
And people are not ready to hear that either. Um, I do say no. I say no all the time. It's like, that is not my ministry. And that's my saying. That's not my ministry. I'm not doing that. Just because sewing, I find sacred. That's
Mm-hmm.
my thing. I find sewing sacred to me. So and because it is sacred, I take it very seriously and do not let things that do not bring me joy infiltrate it.
That's
Um, so doing alterations and all that stuff that's not what I want to do. So I'm not going to do it. I don't even alter my own clothes. Why I'm about to alter something for somebody else.
okay. A word. You know what? You know what really always bothers me is when people will say, "But it's not that hard." How you know?
Then do it.
You
Do
do
it
it.
yourself.
Like my issue here, just taking it back to this story, is one, I feel like the boss, like this feels like quid pro quo, or like her job is now being threatened because she doesn't want to take on like this freebie volunteer work, right? Um, I don't know. Part of me is like, and I feel like I battled with this as well, like as a sewist, where I'm just like, I've been out and people have been like, "Oh, I love your outfit," and I'm just like, "Thank you." Like I literally fight the inner me to be like, thanks, I made it. You know what I mean? Because then I don't really want to feel the question of, oh, well, can you make me one? Right. Um,
Absolutely.
Simply because I don't want that. Like I don't want that. Like I do think that now I'm at a point where I'm more open to taking on like, custom projects and things like that, right? Like I did just do a run of a romper that I did sell and I did make for others. But it's because I offered it and because I charged for it. I don't think that people understand everything that goes into sewing. In fact, like when I posted how much I would charge for this romper, someone someone commented on it and they were like, I think that costs too much. Mind you, my box of threads that just dropped are $50. So if we're paying $50 for a box of threads, how much do you think that this garment is going to cost you? Because that's not even including the actual material. It's not
Yes.
including the time that it takes. And I'm actually really kind of tired of people thinking that one, adults have a lot of free time. Just because we might not be doing something does not mean that we're free. You know what I'm saying?
That it. Ain't that it?
So, so my advice to her would be to just say no, to let her know that I do not take on extra projects, that as I'm learning, the only person who I'm sewing for is myself. And I would also highlight how now she's made me feel uncomfortable about my sewing. And now I don't feel, now she's created an unsafe environment for me at work. I don't know, is
Also,
that too much? Like, would you go to HR?
because the way that, especially with that authoritarian tone, I'm like, oh, this feels a little HR like conversation to me because it's
Right.
getting this is not necessary. But also, what I would say is that I don't have time. I don't have time. My time is my time. And as she said that she takes her free time that's precious to her. Um, and I assume it is to her. I'm not quite sure. Um, you can say I don't have time. I have other projects on my schedule.
Yeah.
Because I mean, now no, because my family, I love them to death, but
Mm,
they know how to sew too. That's the problem. They be saying, "I want you to make this," and I say it's going to be on my time frame,
yeah.
and my time frame might be years,
Years. You know what I had
years.
to recently tell someone was that I had to reprioritize my workflow for projects that paid me. And and if you weren't paying, then you were just kind of at the bottom of the totem pole. You know, no shade. And I understand that you may not have the budget to work with me, but that means that you also like if I don't make you a priority, it's because I've got to prioritize people who are paying.
There you go. And people would not do any type of work if any type of job asked them to work for free.
This is what I'm saying.
Would not do it. Now, I understand volunteer work and it could feed your soul, but when you telling me that I need to hem your pants or something like that, usually that's not him.
Like your pants.
That's not. That's not feeding my soul. I don't want to do that. I do things that make me happy and understand as a creative. I go with where my creativity is telling me to go. It's a spirit in, and I'm not churning stuff out just to churn it. That's my experience as a soloist. I
Mm-hmm.
do it for the fun of it. I have a job or I do other things that bring in more financial benefit to pay for my sewing and everything else that I want to do.
A word, sir.
So
Word.
this is like everybody comes to sewing for different reasons. And I think just because you have a skill does not need to be mean that it needs to be your hustle
Facts.
if you
Although
don't
I
want to.
feel like I don't feel like people really and truly appreciate sewing as a skill, right? And the reason why I say that is because I do feel like people expect for people who sew to just volunteer their time, right? Like we saw that during the panorama when it came time to have some masks made, and people were like, "Oh, I can't believe that you're charging for this." And it's like, well, what do you mean? Because like if you had to order this off of Amazon, you would be paying for it. Like you wouldn't be like, "Oh my God, Jeff, I can't believe you're not giving this away." Right? If Jeff Bezos isn't over here giving away masks, why should I, the small creator?
Right.
Uh,
Absolutely.
but I really feel like it almost feels very disrespectful
Yes.
because no one takes into account the fact that our machines have wear and tear, that we have to pay for supplies, materials, etc., and that it takes time. I went to we have a thrift store here in Atlanta. It's called Park Avenue Thrift.
Mhm.
And like it's an outlet store where you can go in and like literally everything in the store will be priced at like a quarter, 50 cents, $1.25, $1.50. And so
Mhm.
Trisha and I from Creative Costume Academy, we went
Mhm.
thrifting and we had the best time. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy a bunch of jeans because I want to upcycle them, blah, 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 blah. Julian, this was weeks ago. Right. We're pausing for dead air because I bought those because I had specific projects in mind, right? Listen, for fall fashion, right? We know that these denim skirts are here. They're here to stay. If I haven't made the time for myself to make something that I really want to make, am I going to make the time for somebody who is not even paying me?
Look.
I
And
just
people don't understand that literally if like yes, I would have all intentions to do a project right now.
mm-hmm.
Could still happen next year.
It'll still happen next year.
And that's okay with me.
It's okay with me too. Yeah. And while I do wish that I had the wherewithal to, of course, please everyone and to take on all these extra projects. My reality is that I'm a mom of three. I
Mhm.
am a wife. I am, a domestic engineer in addition to running 3 businesses. And I
Cool ass.
also like to have fun. Like I like to, have a good time.
Yes.
So I think that people think that just simply because, you seem to have this time that yes, you're free, you're available to sacrifice it for them. And I think that's wrong.
But I think also the thing is that the problem is it's people like previously they're still holding on to the old image of what sewing looks like. It
Mm,
was only for mending. It was the woman in the back room, or I remember in even like 20 sewing plants, they had the little sewing room near like the laundry or something like that, or near the bedrooms. It was for repair or something like that. And it was more utilitarian, and they just see people over a sewing machine without full joy for it.
mm,
Or they think that we are just our own one person tailor shops where there is like we just going through these things like it's our day-to-day job. And I
right,
think that is no longer what sewing looks like for many people.
right.
Uh, and the media or the connotation to the regular world has not fully changed, especially here in America. I think it would have been different if, like in America, we were able to fully see like the BBC's, the Great British Sewing Bee, the same way
Mm,
that they.
mhm.
I think people would have a better understanding of what sewing as a hobby and as a craft really means, as a self care craft means for people. So they come with this. Now, no, one thing I will say is as I've gotten older and as I've gotten into educating people on how to sew, I will tell them, I won't make it for you. I'll teach you how to do it.
Right.
That's
Because
usually now
because
my
what does
thing.
the Bible say? Teach a man, fish for the man, go fishing for the man, and he eats for a night. Teach the man to
Child is
fish, he eats for a
give a
lifetime.
man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. But it's all
Yeah,
right.
I had it in spirit. I had it in spirit. I had it in spirit.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Hey,
All right,
powerful.
friends.
Yeah.
And that's the T. That is the T. So now one of the things that we are doing on the Audacity is we are interviewing people who are doing audacious things. And we're interviewing people with the same 10 questions. And the reason why we're doing the same 10 questions is because everyone has their own answers based off of their own walk of life. And we would be remiss if we didn't ask each other these questions as well. So, we're kicking off our very first episode with Julian as our interviewee. Now, I'm just going to give you guys a little bit of background about me and my boo thing here, right? Now, Julian and now I've shared this story before because it's like my favorite thing to share because Julian is it's funny because he's become literally one of my nearest and dearest friends. And if you would have told me prior to the panorama that Julian would be like one of my best friends, I would have thought that you were like full of malarkey. So we met when we were doing a sewing challenge and it
Mhm,
was like sew my style
mhm.
and we were both hosts of this challenge, and it's a year-long challenge. It is no more. I think we should bring it back though. I had fun. I had a great time.
Oh, child, I ain't got time, but we'll
I
talk
mean,
about
not
that.
right now, obviously. We should parking lot that maybe for 2024. But um we met there. And now I just remember Julian was like the only man who was a host,
Hmm.
which of course can be a little intimidating, right? Because when you're used to sewists looking a certain way and then you have someone come in, it's like, whoa, he's got to be amazing. And I mean, of course he is. But I remember I happened to be working on a men's pattern of the month,
Hmm.
and they were a pair of men's trousers, and I was working on the welt pocket. Now, part of the challenge was that we actually had to follow the tutorials to a T, because as we gave our feedback had to be about not just the pattern pieces, the drafting, but also the tutorial. Y'all, when I tell you, listen, let me preface this by saying I can make a welt pocket, okay? So don't come for me at all. I can make a welt pocket, but I followed these directions. My welt pocket was not welt pocketing. And I reached out to the leader of the entire challenge and I was like, listen, I'm having this problem. And she was like, girl, I don't even do welt pockets. You should probably reach out to Julian because Julian sews menswear and that's what you're working on. And I was like, okay, cool. Now listen, um, I was very nervous and very scared of Julian at this point in time. I don't know why, but Julian gave this like air of like expertise. And I was like, oh my God, he's going to be like, she can't even sew because she can't get the swoll pocket right. And I was like, hey, Julian, hi. I don't think you know me. My name is Aaronica. I'm doing this challenge with you. And I just wanted to know if this welt pocket that I'm working on, is this user error? Like, am I not smart and I can't sew? Or is it the tutorial? And Julian was like, I don't have time right now to look at this, but I will have time later on this week. So I'll follow back up with you. What, like, sidebar, I love the way that Julian set that expectation for me. He was like, I see that you're having this problem now, and I get that it's an emergency for you. It is not for me though. So on what I have availability and what I have time is when I'm going to address this with you, right? I appreciated that, right? Because I'm someone who struggles, who at the time was struggling to set boundaries, and I struggled a lot of times with saying no. So even having that like kind of like laid out for me was really incredible in my humble opinion. But then he came back and he was like, "Oh no, this tutorial is trash. I tried to do it this way and I don't even know what she was thinking." And I was like, whew, okay, praise God, it's not me.
And those
But
plans never come by today.
listen, that is the only project that I've just had to toss and be like, it's gone with the wind. There's nothing that we can do. I cried about it because I do not like to throw away fabric, right? Um, and then we started to talk a little bit more probably a year later on Instagram, and we would slide into each other's DMs. And then I finally felt comfortable enough to add him as a friend on Facebook because I was like, we could be friends now, right? And then we both became Know Me pattern designers, and we became more active with each other. And then we just developed this friendship as we became designers together. And now I'm just like, if I don't hear from Julian within 24 hours, at about that 36-hour mark, it's going to be either a voice note or a text message of it, hey, just checking in. And I'm like, oh, it has been 36 hours since we talked. So with that, I'm so excited to ask Julian these 10 questions. So, Julian, are you ready?
As ready as I'm gonna be.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. Question numero uno. What
Mhm.
inspired you to pursue sewing as a creative path?
So
Did I say
okay,
sewing or did I say sewing? What did I
you
say?
said someone. You said
Okay.
someone.
Marvelous. I
Okay.
loved it.
Um. So we got to take this all the way back to a small child. So as a kid, my favorite movie was Cinderella, and so Cinderella as Beauty. It has to be the Disney versions.
Hmm.
For the sole purpose of the animals, the birds, and everything like that, and the magic making dresses.
Wow.
I love them for those reasons. So my grandmother sold on both my grandmother sold, my mother sold, and stuff like that. So just the idea of fabric becoming something like that, fabric becoming into these 3D garments really always fascinated me. And I remember as a kid, like drawing dresses and different things like that. And technically, I learned how to sew at 4, like hand sewing. Like I remember my mother gave me an old a white Oxford shirt and some like one of them little like basically a cookie tin of sewing stuff.
Oh, a
And I
sewing kit. Hmm.
yes, and I learned how to do little hand stitches and stuff like that. Um, and I used to make dolls as a kid and stuff like that. I just loved sewing and I loved that creativity. I started school for fashion. That was my plan. I was going to become
Wow.
couturier, and I had the name for my store and everything. I wanted to create like a custom dress shop, very old school, called the Sketchbook. But what I learned when you got into school is that you technically don't, in fashion to school, you don't learn how to actually sew. And I think that is, well, you don't learn how to sew, especially not in your first year. Like literally, you did nothing with clothing and fashion your first year at all. And I was in drawing class and we were drawing circles and shapes and shadows. And my drawing teacher was just super hypercritical and I just hated it. So I dropped out and
Mm.
changed majors after like my first quarter. Um, and then picked it up again on my own because I still had that desire for it. So I like literally I would watch YouTube videos just sewing, not sewing at all, but just I would just watch YouTube tutorials and stuff like that. And picked it up once I bought my first vintage machine
Wow.
and have it ever since.
Wow. You know what's funny, Julian, is I did not think that you had been sewing that long or had an interest for in sewing for that long, honestly. For some odd reason, I
Mhm.
just thought that this was something that obviously it was pre-pandemic, but
Mm.
like I don't know why I just thought that this was something that was like literally the last couple of years for you. So learning so much already.
It's been because it's been around like so technically like with the sewing machine and stuff like that, I have been sewing since 2016. But yeah, it's always been a passion, always been
Wow.
something that was in the back of my mind. I've always loved fashion, always like designers and stuff like that, learning stuff, looking up stuff, but actually not getting into it, like taking the step to actually do it until 2016.
Wow. Wow. So since you've been doing it for so long and it feels like creativity has been just kind of like in your on your path, right?
Mhm.
What is something that you have done that was really bold or really like audacious on your creative journey?
Hmm. Bold or audacious, probably saying yes to some of the opportunities I've been given.
Well,
Would
come on,
nor-
drop some opportunities.
So, like, doing,
Is this podcast one of them?
I mean, this, yes. Also, like, doing the, becoming a expert with Bernina to launch the L860 Surger. Um, being an ambassador for Bernina, being even a designer for Know Me Patterns. I usually err on the side of caution and safety and staying in what I know. So
Mhm.
to really step outside of that, and not living in fear, or not like just resting in my fears and in my own head and just saying like, we just gonna do it and see what happens. And usually, even in my head, in those moments, I'm still screaming. Like screaming is happening, but I'm still pushing forward and doing
Yeah.
it anyway, doing it scared. I find as a muscle that I'm always practicing, and sewing provides a outlet that I see positive results with it.
That's good, Julian. That's good. So now I know that you are not a full-time creative, right? And I get that. But many of our listeners are creative entrepreneurs. Can
Mhm.
you share any kind of advice for actually turning an income from your creative side, your creative hobby, or rather what started out as just a hobby and is something now that you do generate income from?
So I think part of it is that I do share my personality. I have crafted what you see of me, and there is a realness to it.
Mhm.
So if y'all see my sewing space, it ain't never gonna be cute and pretty and clean. That's just not my ministry. Um, so being yourself and allowing yourself to show up and be present, I think it's important. So I think I learned that also in my job. So in my regular 9 to 5, I work in philanthropy. I work in public health philanthropy, as somebody who focuses on community engagement and building relationships. So as part of that, um, being authentic is important. So I think that yes, you can turn yourself on a bit, but still there is an important that there is some people need to be able to relate to what you do.
Mhm.
You don't have to show up as perfect. I think that
Oh,
people
that's good.
really value honesty and realness and struggles and mess ups, and especially in sewing where people think, I think everybody thinks everything has to be perfect, or we're trying to hold ourselves to a standard of fast fashion or robots that are creating clothing. Be real. Show the realness up. That's important.
Oh, that is so good, Julian. That was really good. I love that. That was real good. So let's switch gears a little bit, right? Because we know that as creatives, the motivation is not always there. So, how do you stay motivated and inspired to create, especially during challenging times or creative blocks?
Now, I ain't gonna say this is the healthiest thing to do, but this is what
Uh
I do. Um, One way that I've done it, I love machines. So I am a person who I feel that machines have personalities. So, and I like to test personalities, and I like to help people buy machines. So I need to know about the personalities of machines. So if I'm having a creative rut, I will buy a machine. I surely will. I currently at the moment own around 51, 52.
Wow.
Um, because I'm about to get rid of one. So technically it's 53, but we ain't gonna talk about it. Most of them are vintage. Most of them are from like thrift stores and stuff like that. But yeah, and just to have a feel for them, just to understand the idiosyncrasies. And sometimes, yes, I have a lot of modern machines, but you can't beat the feel of a vintage machine when you're sewing.
Mm,
I have to pull that out and just it's like a meditation mode. It just get back
mm.
to basics and the mechanical of it all. So I would do that. Sew with the happiest fabric you got.
The
Sometimes you can't sew
happiest
with it.
fabric that you have. I love that.
Yeah, I like y'all. If you know me, if you've seen my pictures and you see my style, I'm all about color. I'm all about print. Just because when I see it, it makes me happy, and when I sew with it, it's like a smile on my face as I sew.
Yeah.
Um, so be willing to do that. It's very rare that I sew with like just a basic solid, period.
Mhm.
Um, which sometimes we need to because we need
I was about to say,
basics.
meanwhile, back at the ranch, I'd be like, oh, solid for me. Thank you.
Mm-mm, mm-mm. But that's what we did for, and that's the variety of the spice of life.
Fact.
Um, but yeah,
I just
sometimes
wanted to point out that what you're sewing right now is a solid fabric.
yeah, but this ain't no regular solid.
It's not a regular solid. You're correct.
This ain't no regular solid. So if it is solid, it's gonna be special. Something about it excites me to do it. So just making sure that I put that into my life is important.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps me happy and excited. Doing sometimes I just need to go back to what I know. So one of my like go-tos is a button-up shirt
Hmm.
because I started sewing from a book, like books in YouTube. And once I made a skirt, I think I made a skirt for my mom. My second project after that was a button-up shirt because I thought the pattern said simplicity, simple. They lied, but I didn't know better.
But listen, you be whipping them shirts out. I want you to know that you are the reason why I feel like I have confidence now to make them because I'm like, well, if Julian can whip these up in like 15 minutes, I can surely at least get started.
15 minutes. But yes, I do like, but I think because again, I just went for it.
Yeah.
And I know it and it's easy and I can just relax in it and have a good time. So having like those projects, those tried and trues that just make you happy,
Yeah.
um, that you can just like coast along and just make and listen to like vibe out with some music or something like that. Those are the things that help me to rebuild my creativity when it kind of has a slump.
That's good. So, in your experience, what role does audacity or fearlessness play in achieving success as a creative individual?
So I think that it really showing up, especially as a black male queer
Mhm.
soloist, like showing up in a space and taking up space and being
Up space, yes,
bold is audacious
it
on a
is.
day basis. I am like the sewing industry don't look like me.
Mm-mm.
But I'm still here with a smile.
Mm-hmm.
When there are spaces that I'm not always welcomed.
Mm.
So um that's how it's like, just kind of being present and being willing to show up, I think is audacious on a
Yeah,
day-to-day basis. But also, just kind of taking risks and not following bucking trends. I make my own. I do what makes me
that's right.
happy.
Yeah,
So do it like being willing to not just think like, oh, well, this is what the magazine says is the trend right now. Let me
mm.
do that. No, I mean, if I make it, I'm the designer. I'm the trendsetter.
I'm the trendsetter. Come, come on, Julian. Yes,
Once you make it the same way with the sizing, like some people do not want to make clothing because they are not at the size they want, not realizing if you make it, it don't have a size, it don't have a number. It's the
doesn't.
size it fits. And I want fitums. I don't care if it got a number to it. I want it to
Right.
fit. So doing those type of things and having um that thought process about it is what I think helps keep it going and helps me just be present and has gotten me to where I'm at now.
I love this so much, and I feel like a lot of what you're saying is going to be freeing for so many people. Um, And for those who cannot see, obviously, because you guys are listening to us, Julian is currently hand sewing right now, which of course is ironic given the next question. Crafting and sewing often requires patience and precision.
Mhm.
How do these qualities translate into other aspects of your life, such as decision making or problem solving?
Um, Sometimes you need to do some and I literally just I was going to post a video about this today, is that you sometimes have to get down to basics and get
Mm,
down to the root of things and get down to the essence of something, meaning that um sometimes you got to do the dirty work of it. So like this hand sewing is dirty work, and I have to hand sew it because a machine ain't gonna give me the same clean finish.
right.
Just won't. So being willing to take a breath and find the joy in what this is going to bring is important.
Hmm.
Um, so those type of things I think is where kind of in other parts of my life is that sometimes you have to put in the work. You have to find the joy in putting in that work too, knowing that the end process or the end result is really going to be worth it in your head. So and sometimes the whole thing might not be what brings you joy, but even just a small bit of the process that required that little bit of extra. And you have to then be able to say, like, nobody else might see this, but I see it and I know what it took.
Hmm.
And I can be excited about that. So
Mm. Mm. Julian, I'm like, why am I over here so impressed learning all of these things about you? Like, oh my gosh, you're so fire. Okay. So, can you share a personal story about a project or creation that holds a special place in your heart and what makes it meaningful to you?
I mean, let's just be real. This project that I'm working on right now. So I am, for people who cannot see, I'm currently working on my look for New York Frocktails 2023. And it is a disco glamour theme. And I decided to challenge myself and make a project that has scared me that I've been wanting to do. I've tried to make 9 lists and everything like that to make this project for years, at least about 2.
Wow.
Um, I am making a suit. And um, I have tried to make jackets before and never taken them to the finish line.
Mm.
So the fact that literally I am in the final, like doing the final little things, such as right now I am hand sewing in the back lining. So I'm literally sewing down one of the sides of the back lining with whip stitches.
Wow.
Um, just getting to this point of seeing this through using a fabric that is not easy.
Mm-mm.
I'm not using a normal suit fabric.
But it's
Uh,
beautiful.
this I am excited about this because didn't allow I didn't allow myself to get into my own head.
Hmm.
So and again, Lord knows if this will ever get worn again, and I really don't care
Hmm.
because it's the making part of it that I find the most fun of it. I find joy in making. So yeah, I think
That
right
makes
now,
me so happy, Julian.
thing.
Now, I get that you aren't a dad. And I
Hmm.
feel like a lot of times people who are not parents feel like they don't have a space to offer insight to parents. But I'm going to ask you this question because I think that we've all been a child before. So
Yes.
therefore, we all have a level of expertise when it comes to children, right? So,
Hmm.
what advice do you have for parents or caregivers who want to nurture creativity and audacity in their children?
Um, allow them to be themselves.
Mm,
Um, do not, when something is in a child's hands, I think that I have the belief that similarly, if you make it and don't have a size and it don't come in the season, it don't
mhm,
have a gender.
mm.
Fabric don't have a gender role. Color does not have is not assigned to a gender. Allow them to be themselves, allow them to like what they like, to love what they love.
Mhm.
And if they have a curiosity about something, nurture it. But also at the same time, do not force something on them if they lose that. If they want
Mm,
to grow into something different, allow them the space to do that too.
that's good.
Um, so because I wanted to do, I remember as a kid, I wanted to do gymnastics and all the like the dancing classes. My parents were not having it. Um, I had to do karate
Mm,
and had to do it for 8 years.
wow.
And I started asking to stop after the first few months and was forced to do
Wow.
it for 8 years. I remember I was taking Spanish lessons and they said it's getting expensive. You have to make a choice. And I said Spanish. They made me stick with karate.
They were like, we were just joking. We're actually going to continue to choose for you.
Exactly. So like those type of things, like allow a child to have that choice and that agency
Hmm.
to make those decisions. Because if you allow them to make those decisions, then they know how to better make decisions when they're an adult.
Yes. Yes.
Because then they're not scared that they're going to make the wrong choice because they've never been able to have the choice to make it before. So
Mm,
allow them to have decision making power in their lives, even for the small stuff. Like, and allow them to do that.
that is so powerful, Julian. That is so powerful. So, as a creative, how do you balance the business side of your craft with the joy of creating?
So for me, as I stated, I'm not a full time creator. So I do have a 9 to 5 job.
Hmm.
And the reason I hold on to having a 9 to 5 job is because I don't want sewing to hold the brunt of my money making, of my living.
Mm,
So um I keep a 9 to 5 job so I can say yes and no and have fun decision and still make sure the bills are paid. Um so that's the way that I do it. And that might not be for everything. I think that for others, um, there's always a piece that you need to keep for yourself. Do not give it all. Keep something for yourself. So even let's say that you are going to sew stuff, pick a product, pick a niche, sew in that.
mm,
But also know that there's other things that you sew for you.
mm.
So like Terrence Williams and Terrence Williams design, he's great with the accessories and the dusters and the headbands. Those are the things that he sews. But there are things that he also makes for himself.
Right.
Just himself. I think that that's something that you need to make sure that you have.
Mm. I love that, Julian. I love that. All right. So, lastly,
Mhm.
what is on the horizon for you in the world of crafting, sewing, or just your creative endeavors aside from this podcast?
I mean, because this is the new hotness, I tell you. But beyond this, I am, I think the pandemic and just the world in general has me exploring what kind of delving more into crafting entrepreneurship could look like for me.
Hmm.
So, and especially in the regards to teaching, that is something I currently do with some different places, and I want to explore more. Um, so that I think is something I'm exploring. Also, pattern drafting more. So even outside of like Nomi, what that can look like for me, because of course, I keep some ideas in my head.
I know that's right.
Um,
I know
so
that's right.
thinking of that, but then also too, one thing that has been on my mind for a while is notions, especially
Oh,
more
yes.
masculine inspired notions.
Hmm.
Because for so long, a lot of our notions and sewing machines are pink and have flowers and all
Right.
these, and that does not always appeal. So, how can we provide other options as we are trying to expand this craft and this hobby? So, what that can look like is something that I am also thinking of.
Hmm. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So that concludes like our very first interview on here. Um, and I'm so excited that we got to interview you first because I feel like I just learned so much about you that I just didn't know. Like, granted, of course, like I was color me impressed before, but now I'm sitting here like, oh, like staring dreamily at like my bestie. Like, I'm like, look at you, you're so amazing.
Well, thank you. Don't make me blush now.
You
Don't do
really are though. Like I am, and of course, knowing other things about you, just I'm just so proud of the person that you are, and that this person that you are continuing to grow into. That even just like doing this interview and diving really deep into who Julian is and who Julian has come from, and just the wisdom that you just shared has been really, really, really incredible. So thank you so much for that. I'm like
Thank you
over
for
here,
doing your best Barbara Walters, your best Oprah Winfrey, and
Baba.
giving all just asking all the questions.
Asking all the questions, diving deep, diving deep. Okay, so we know what Julian is already working on right now. Julian is like knee deep in his frocktail suit, and let me tell y'all, it's the suit is suiting. Okay, Julian is looking like a whole snackable, and I'm working on my coordinating look so that I can match his fly, because I am his date, he is my date, and we are going as couple.
Yep.
Um, so that is what Julian is working on, but I have yet to get started on mine because I am last minute Lolita. That's what we're gonna call me, okay? It's who I identify as, right?
But you
Um,
got ideas. You have some thoughts
I
about
do, I do, I do. Um, so what I'm sewing this week and what I've been working on outside of course, my live sewing with BSN, it is Spirit Week at my kids' school, and it's
it.
also picture day.
Oh.
So yes, so I'm knee deep in mommy sews. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, and one thing that I really do love about, of course, the mommy sews is that like I get to make them the things that they want to wear. So
Right.
like I shared earlier, Trisha and I were thrifting, and I got Bo, my son, this super cute button down. It's a little bit too long for him, so I'm getting ready to hem that and take that up a little bit, because he's thicker than a Snicker. And we love it. We stand for a juicy baby, right?
Oh, so cute.
Yes. And so I'm making him a little rib. It's a gray 4x1 rib knit sweater to go on top of it for picture day, because Bo loves to look good. That dude is like, he just got his fresh cut. He came in and he was like, Mommy, my hair looks good. I was like, Sir, I love it. So I'm making him a sweater to go on top. It's gray, and the shirt is blue, navy blue and white. And so the contrast is going to be gorgeous. And Aurora, her picture day is also tomorrow. And I made her, so far, I've already made her a little leather skirt made,
Okay.
of course, from faux leather. And then I'm making her like this fitted top that has like, it's going to be long sleeve, and it's also a rib knit, because obviously I love rib. And it's going to have some flutter sleeves in addition to the long sleeve. So I'm thinking that this will be cute.
Mhm.
And the skirt is hitting knee length, because your girl's got a bodacious, she gets it honest, okay? Her assets are from her mother. That's all we can say. That's, we'll leave it there, right? So that's what I'm working on this week. I'm knee deep in the mommy sews. That's all I got.
But that's enough, and that's good, and
And it
you
is
are
enough.
enjoying making it. So that's all that matters. You got. I think the biggest thing, especially, is once you make what you want, as long as you can find joy in making it. You know.
Facts. Yes.
So that's important. I think that we just need to make sure that in all things, let's find those moments and of joy. Even if you are sewing stuff for others and you are selling and stuff like that, find joy in it.
Mm,
Find what is the joy that you can take from the experience.
yes, I love that. I love that. So let me ask you this question.
Mhm.
What hot topics have you been seeing in the sewing community as of late?
Ugh. I mean, I think that it definitely, know me. Fall line just
Ooh,
dropped, so people are really buzzing about that, which we appreciate it both as Nomi designers. Please buy our patterns.
please
You
buy
can
our
buy
patterns.
on simplicity.com. You can buy them at the Joann's or any craft store near you. Internationally, you can find them everywhere. At Spotlight, you can find them on the Fold line. You can find them at different places around the
Yes,
world.
yes.
Uh, please buy our stuff. So really seeing people get excited about those. There's always a little something. People get into squabbles and everything else. I think I'm at the point now where, like, look, if it don't pay me, I mind my business. I mind the business that pays me.
I drink water and mind my business. However, there was a hot topic that was recently up for discussion that I definitely texted you about.
Uh-huh. Yes. The
So
game or
and we don't necessarily have to get into that.
Mhm.
But this does beg the question of when it comes to designs, and this is something that I also feel like I've talked about on Instagram during lives and stuff like that. Um, who owns a design? Like, is that something that people can really say that they own?
Usually no. I mean,
Hmm.
even legally, you can't. Like, especially because you can't technically copyright um the instructions or the design of a basic garment. So this is why you don't usually see a lot of copyrights. Now, for the instructions, you can.
Mhm.
So the method of construction, yes. But for like just saying that I'm going to copyright a sweater, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
But I think because of the way our community works, especially in terms of sewing and in terms of people, like we are a very conscious community when it comes to people wanting credit, so where credit is due. Um, what is legal and what is taboo are two different things.
Mm.
Um, so I think that is really where we see things kind of play more of a part. So while because I think we've all seen it where like somebody come out with a outfit, a garment, a pattern, and it's like this store came out with that last year. I'm like,
Yeah.
but I mean, I'm sorry, but nothing was really new under the sun. I think
Right.
about it, especially for men's patterns. Like literally, we have shirts and pants. Like our blocks are literally, we have a shirt block and a
We
pants
have
block.
shirts and pants.
Ain't too much different you can make with that. A sweatshirt is
Right.
still a shirt. A jacket is an oversized shirt. Like, come on now. Like, so there's not too many things new under the sun.
Very
But
true.
what you do with it is what makes it different. And I think even as like patterns are not for you to fully recreate a look that you see that somebody else made.
Mhm.
Patterns are a guide. I know as myself, take my pattern, take my guide and make with it what you want.
Yeah.
Hack it, change it up, do
Yeah.
what you want with it. I want to be an inspiration to empower you to do whatever.
Right.
I think people need to have that sense of curiosity and agency to do whatever they want with these things.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't think that is always people's thought process because their creative minds don't work the same.
Mm.
So,
Follow-up question. If
mm,
you were to trademark a design, what would it be?
oh, child.
Let me see. I would trademark the raglan. I would. And here's why. Listen, let me see something. Every pattern company has a raglan, right? And
Mhm.
with raglans, I really feel like they're very versatile, but they're different enough, right? Because it offers you color blocking in a way that makes sense. And I say makes sense loosely, right? But you can also add a placket and now you got a Henley. You can add a hood, now you got a hoodie. You add a placket and a hood, now you got a Henley hoodie. You know what I'm saying? You add different colors and now it's color blocked and it gives a completely different feel. Um, but I think I would trademark that, right? Because you can add length, now you got a dress. You shorten it, now you got a crop top. You add an entire seam down the middle, now you have a jacket.
True. I
I
think
really feel like that's what I would do.
for me, if I had to choose a design and trademark, I would go with something that I find as one of my signatures, and that would be a polo.
Hmm.
I would trademark a polo because I mean you can do a lot with it as well, but I think that it is universal for both men and women.
Mhm.
In terms of something that you can wear dress up, dress down. You can make it a polo dress. You can do so
Yeah.
many different things with it. If I had to choose something, but also too, I'm of that belief that there's enough room for all of us, so there ain't no need for me to trademark nothing because I know that I'm always going to create my own hotness.
And there it is.
So come with it as you
There it
may,
is.
but it ain't gonna be mine.
He said, "Come with it. It's just not going to be the same as me. You
No,
can, you
right?
can. What is it? You can replicate, but you can't duplicate."
Exactly.
Yes,
And
I'm here for
compliment
that.
is the sincerest form of flattery. So flatter me. That's fine.
He said, "Flatter me with your audacity." I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Absolutely, positively here for it. Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and conclude our very first episode. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, everyone. And I hope that you find some time to be creative this week.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Audacity Podcast.
We hope you enjoyed this audacious journey with us. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.
And don't forget to join our creative community on Instagram at the Audacity and keep this conversation going.
If you got burning questions, audacious stories, or hot topics you want us to dive into, reach out to us on social media or at hello@theaudacity.com.
Thanks for stitching with us today. Until next time, keep those audacious dreams alive and your stitches even tighter.
Take care and stay creative.